What I'd love to dive into, if you're comfortable with it, is you had that point, that moment, that kind of shift off. What happened?
My best friend and my wife at the time ended up having an affair. I had a business partner who stole dollars from me. Speaking with fitness people, I say, what's the most important set? And they go, it's the third set. It's the last set. And I'm like, guys, it's mindset. If I work on me, everything around me is going to be okay. So self-care is not selfish. So I was this person who was giving out until I just gave out. The challenge, of course, is that when somebody says, so why do you need my services, or why now? That's a trigger. The tactics that I like to share with people is don't ask why questions. Change your why questions to
So guys, welcome back to the Raw Talk podcast. Today we've got a very, very special guest all the way over from the States, Joe Marcoux. I hope I said your surname right.
Marcoux, like the guess
Marcoux.
who, from Canada, actually.
Okay, from Canada. I absolutely slaughtered that introduction in that case.
It's all right. It's all right. A lot of people would think that I'm from the US because I don't have the Canadian accent.
Right.
And I'm French Canadian, so French is my first language. And people go, you actually speak French? I don't hear an accent. So from
incredible.
Winnipeg, Canada. Joe Marcoux, like the guess who, from Canada.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, it's great to connect with you, Joe. And,
It's a pleasure.
And honestly, I really appreciate the kind of connection that we made. It was from the WhatsApp chat, wasn't it? From the WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, with Craig.
With Craig, absolutely incredible guy. And, I've been working now alongside him for, must be 3-4 months. Really built like a deep connection immediately just because of like his ethos and his values and his why.
Yeah.
And, as soon as I kind of dropped a follow on your page, I thought, right, I need to connect with this guy. He seems like my kind of guy. He seems like an awesome energy. So, it's great to have you on the podcast.
It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be here. And for us to be able to connect here in Dubai,
Totally.
what a trip.
Really is. And I'm excited to be moving here next year. I really am. But of course,
congratulations.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that a hell of a lot. I really do. So let's just go straight for the jugular.
Okay, do it.
Who's Joe?
Joe, who's Joe? And we just did an exercise this at a mastermind event that I spoke at over the last couple of days. So who I am is a father, a husband, a son, a brother. I'm a piece of the divine that is here on a mission to help people be confident communicators so that they can help their audience be better. And a lot of times it's with the fitness industry, it's with people that want to make a difference in other people's lives. So who I am is someone who's constantly learning, constantly searching and figuring that out on this journey here. And a lot of people would say I'm the sales sensei. Yeah. I'm known as, a lot of people tell me I'm the best sales coach in the world, and I take that to heart. So yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And there was something actually that really kind of drew me to your page, and it was pinned right at the top, and I believe it was new age sales, right? So what is new age sales, and what does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that it's not selling.
Yeah.
Most people are impatient. They're lacking control, and they want to pitch. New age sales is, it's an old adage of I want to understand, as opposed to I want to make a point of being understood. So instead of going in with the intention of I want to buy my stuff, or sell, it's let me make sure that we can make a connection. It's like the way that we've connected over the last 4 months, and it's just taken a little bit of time because more than ever, people are very skeptical. So new age sales is understanding that people don't want to be sold. They want to choose to buy. And understanding that if you take the time to develop your authority in terms of your confidence, your conviction, and understanding the big C of control, then you could be exceptionally dangerous and then choose not to be. Yeah.
I love that. That. It's almost putting the sale into their hands as opposed to yours, and making the sale about them as opposed to making it about you.
Right.
And I think that it's very, very easy, to kind of jump online nowadays and see kind of lots of different strategies for doing things and tactics and whatnot. It sounds to me like your kind of ethos and the way that you've kind of built this, skill set is very much been focused around understanding the human being and having that level of empathy, I guess, to kind of, sit with someone and understand them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's the 3 E's that I like to talk about are energy, enthusiasm, because highest energy wins. Yeah. You need to have that enthusiasm and be enthusiastic of what you have to offer, and it starts with empathy. So you bring up empathy, and I want to understand you. So what questions can I ask, and what questions, because you asked me a why-based question, like it's the what's your why and whatnot. Those are great questions to ask yourself, eyes closed and whatnot. The challenge, of course, is that when somebody says, so why do you need my services, or why now? That's a trigger. So the tactics that I like to share with people is don't ask why questions, because that's a trigger and then people get standoffish. It's okay when you really know someone, and better to know ourselves. I can ask myself why. Change your why questions to what questions so that you can get objective data. Then you go down the path of what's the desire, because desire is more poignant and truly a more of a driver than why ever will be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Joe. It's really interesting that you say that, actually, because I've been very fortunate to work with some incredible mentors over the last kind of 5+ years, and there was one piece of advice I was once given around sales, and I'd always labelled myself when I started as bad at sales. I said I'm not great at sales, and it almost felt like it was like a dirty word. I was like, I don't know how to do it.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, and then I think over time, the more I connected with people, and the more I just thought, I'm just going to go into this and just have a chat, I felt like things started to improve and kind of close improve and stuff like that. And I remember being given this line, and I used it maybe 10 times. And every time I used it, it felt really inauthentic. And I tried to kind of adjust it to my own style. But this is what it was, and this was given to like a group. And it was to always start the call with, why now, why me? Now, the reason it didn't connect to me is because it felt like that question was led from ego.
Right.
So what, I guess, advice would you give to somebody who is looking to kind of go into a call and kind of find out a bit about that person, kind of go into the discovery with more curiosity and less, why now, why me,
Right, which is less of a push.
Yeah, exactly.
So, in this context, it would be starting the call. I have a belief of a buying conversation roadmap. So instead of a sales call, let's call it a buying conversation. And as such, it starts with your offer, and then somebody books a call. Okay. We get on the call, and the first thing we need to do is build rapport.
Sure.
So it's not business related. So it could be, hey, so I noticed you're wearing a watch. What kind of watch is that? Or it could be, I noticed that you've got a couple of piercings, and I used to. And so what prompted you? Again, what? Not a why question. It's like, so why do you have earrings? What prompted you to get 2 earrings, and you've got a stud on one side and a ring on the other? So what's the purpose? And I'm genuinely curious about that.
Yeah.
Or I see people with tattoos, and my eldest daughter is a tattoo artist. So I love ink. I don't have any because I also know that if I ended up getting one, I'd be done.
I'm the same. Yeah.
So and that's okay. Yeah. And so these things that build rapport, once we have the rapport out of the way, and it doesn't take long, 30 to 90 seconds of rapport building, then the discovery would begin with. So George, what were you hoping to get out of this conversation with us today? It's a what question. And then it could be, well, I'm looking to improve my sales. I'm looking to lose some weight. I'm looking to be able to drive more leads to my business. Right? And then there's the what. And then we dig deeper and get SMART goals from that. SMART goals meaning something specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. We just did this exercise live yesterday, and I brought people up on stage, and the unfortunate thing is people are horrible at getting SMART goals. And I'll give you the example. You take a fitness coach who says, so what were you hoping to get from this call for me today? And they say, well, the guest instead. I don't like calling people prospects. I like calling them a guest.
Okay.
And because and I'll explain that in a moment. So the guest says, well, I want to lose 20 to 30 pounds. Okay, 20 to 30 pounds. And then all of a sudden they pitch. First of all, we don't even have a SMART goal. We don't even have even specifics out of 20 to 30 pounds. I mean, is it 20? Is it 25? Is it 30? Because that 10-pound difference, what does that do to the timeline to be able to effectively and safely, with health involved, to be able to let go of that 10 extra pounds? And again, the vernacular that we use, is it weight loss, or is it somebody who's frustrated that they've lost the weight, they found the weight, they lost the weight, and they found the weight, and they've been on this yo-yo diet, as opposed to, let's use different words. Instead of weight loss, let's talk about, if there was a way for us to be able to have you let go of this weight for good for the last time, how would that make you feel?
Yeah.
Right? Because people are going to buy based on emotion and justify with logic.
Totally.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. And I think that what you said there about kind of setting those SMART goals, it's funny because if that person then, or that guest then became a client,
exactly,
then later on down the line, you're going to be setting SMART goals with them anyway. So it's almost
Precisely.
allowing them kind of a hint into your world, a hint into your coaching to start kind of understanding, articulate, okay, well, what's on the table here, what's being offered.
Right.
And I think that, I completely agree with that. It's very, very easy to almost jump onto a call and feel like, okay, I have to have this script and I have to ask certain questions. And, even then when you mentioned my watch and my earrings, immediately I became more aware and more in the room. Because I say this to people all the time, like whether we like it or not, when someone's coming to say like even your social media page, subconsciously they're thinking more about themselves than they're thinking about you.
Sure.
It doesn't mean don't show yourself. It means that if you're sharing that much value that someone can see that and go, wow, that's incredible. Joe's just given me this nugget of information. I've then used it and it worked.
Yes.
That makes me look like a better salesperson, or that makes me look like I care more. Great. I want to connect with him again. Then, that can kind of lead to much bigger and greater things.
The agenda of the conversation is the key. If the agenda is about me, if you're my guest, you're gonna smell that.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, I'm out. This guy is pushing. If the agenda is, I really want to understand George. I want to get to know this guy. Are we in alignment?
Yeah.
If we are, then the next thing is, with the SMART goals in place, then I can inspire you, get you that sense of, okay, I want to do something, and then I want to understand your motivation, because I can't motivate you. I can inspire you. Motivation is, what is your motive to action? And then it's empowerment, to the ability to empower you to be able to make a decision. Because in sales or creating buying conversations, the job of any coach or business owner, even if they want the privilege of coaching, the work is the sale.
Yeah.
And therefore, you need to be able to be in a position of understanding. And AIM, when you think alignment, inspire, motivation, empower, AIM is French for love. That's not by default. That's by design.
Yeah.
And so commit to the practice of changing the way that you love. Because when you love people, like I want people to think of you and go, George, love that guy. Love that guy. So if they love you, they obviously are going to trust you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that whole thing about KLT, know, like, trust, it's really know, love, trust.
I love that. And I think it's so powerful as well, because, and again, this is something that we've said to clients in the past, that if one of your clients, well, realistically, let's say we're talking about like fitness coaches or whatever it may be, if they're looking at their coach, they want to be taking inspiration from that coach. Like to them, that's their hero.
Right.
They want to do them proud. They want to do them well. And like you said there, with the whole kind of know, love, and trust process, if someone's jumping on a call with you and they don't feel like they can build any kind of level of rapport with you, they don't really understand you, they don't really feel like they can build a connection with you, then of course they're going to have that guard up.
Yeah.
So would you say, are there any like kind of key areas or key questions or key like specifics you would dive into to try and allow that process to naturally take place? Because I guess there are different personalities at play here, aren't there?
Correct. The focal point needs to be, what's the pain that they're currently in, because they're getting on a call with you. They've booked a call because they have a problem.
Sure.
So let's figure out, what is the problem? How are they? And then once we can get the specific, measurable, attainable, and actionable, realistic, and timely goals, my preference would be to get 3. Okay. Therefore, we can then start digging into how they feel about that. If they're feeling in pain, again, pain is going to vary to a certain degree. What are they feeling right now? How does it feel? Tell me a little bit. And I use what's called the TED method. I mean, TED Talks, if you're familiar, right? It's technology, entertainment, design. The TED method is, so George, tell me a little bit about what it looks like. And it could be, I'm looking to get more leads. Okay, so tell me how many leads you're getting right now. Explain to me what it feels like knowing that you're not getting the leads that you could get. Describe to me when you see your calendar and it's empty as opposed to being full. Describe to me what that feels like. So now I'm getting a sense of the emotional space. And when I recommend we double down on pain, and then we still want to be able to future pace what it would look like in the future when we've worked together, and then you get a little bit of that bridge to Pleasure Island. Because right now, people are living on Pain Island. So let's take you over to Pleasure Island, and let's say it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And now, George, let's imagine it's 6 months from now, and now your calendar is, again, assuming that I'm helping you with lead generation.
Sure.
Your calendar is now full, but it's not so full where you're dealing with leads that are a waste of time. It's full with ideal clients, and you've got white space within, and things are going really well in your business. Tell me what that feels like. And somebody could say, well, it feels good. Okay, explain to me what feel good really looks like to you. And we delve into that. So the future pacing, most people go there way too quick.
Yeah.
and they don't delve enough into the actual problem. Because if I give you the option of, okay, here's a hot stove, you can put your hand on it, or you can pet the puppy. What's going to get you to go move first? It's get your hand off the hot stove. So you, right?
Yeah, totally.
So in that context, the idea of having a script and everything else, it's only going to go so far.
Totally.
I don't dismiss that there should be a script in terms of a framework.
Yeah.
However, critical thinking requires practice, because I don't know what you're going to say. You never know where the conversation is going to go. So you can have all the scripts in the world. Eventually, the synaptic responses of your brain require the practice, and nobody does enough role play. The seasoned professionals, the top 5%ers, they do the role play, and they don't do it with people that are inexperienced. Right? That's like putting a white belt in a room with another white belt, and all they do is develop bad habits. They get together with people that are experienced, that they're black belts, that they're setting themselves up for success to get course corrections.
Yeah. I love that. That's brilliant. And it's ironic that you say that, because I think that, particularly for the coaches that we're currently coaching, it would more so be the complete newbies to the industry that will go, let me practice. And then those guys and girls that maybe got 40 clients, 50 clients, 60 clients, 70, that would say, look at all these clients I've got. I don't need to practice my sales skills.
Yeah.
But it's like, they kind of almost have the wool pulled over their eyes, because they're not kind of refining that skill and honing that practice. And then that's when they would then think to themselves, well, I've got busy now, so let me lean into a script. And ironically, what I've found, and this is something that we've kind of spoken about on the podcast here, is, over the last year for myself, I've been going through quite a big personal journey. And I guess in a sense, purging a lot of my previous life to get to a place whereby I can increase my emotional intelligence, not only for myself, but also for my clients. And I've actually found that doing that work has allowed me to be that much better at sales, not because I have a new script, not because I have a new sentence or a new phrase, but because I'm able to kind of sit and hold space far better for the person sat in front of me. And that has been absolutely golden. And I think one thing that's been really special has been able to teach this to clients. If you're on a call with somebody, I've had clients say to me, I hate sales. And I kind of turn around and say, you hate the opportunity of changing somebody's life?
That's exactly what it is.
Because that's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
And that's why I think that, and complete transparency, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, what's your opinion on sales? I hate it.
Most people feel that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now I see it for what it is.
Right.
I don't call it a sales call. I call it a discovery call. And when I'm jumping on, I'm like, I really want to find out if I can actually help this person.
Right.
And if I can, it excites me. If I'm 10 minutes in and I'm like, I've got an idea, I'm firing on all cylinders, and I sit up. I try not to overpower, because I can get quite energetic, and I don't want to do too much.
Makes two of us.
Yeah, totally. I have to sometimes calm myself down a little bit. But Joe, I'm really intrigued. What got you from? Well, I guess what got you into sales? Like, what was that initial spark that kind of pushed you in that?
So I started off with this passion for exercise back when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And I got asked to manage an exercise equipment retail store at the age of 18.
Okay.
And it took a little while. I started doing some personal development work. I ended up meeting up with a guy by the name of Jim Rohn, who is Tony Robbins' coach. Wow. And that propelled me to meet Zig Ziglar and then Brian Tracy. And by the age of 20, I opened up my own high-end exercise equipment retail store in my hometown of Winnipeg. And that, of course, took me on an entrepreneurial journey. I think now, when I think of a 20-year-old starting a business selling treadmills, price points of $3,000, $5,000, $8,000 at 20 years old, I was selling to people now my age, in my 50s and 60s. I knew that was the market I wanted to deal with. These are the people that I wanted to help. And to this day, I still have on my vision board, my mission is to help people live a better quality of life through the benefits of total health and exercise. So when I help, for example, a fitness coach or a mindset coach, because total health encompasses a lot. Business health is part of that for me. And so that's how I got started. And I remember the moment there was somebody coming in and they were looking for a rowing machine. And it was a husband and wife, and they must have been in their 60s. And I was just having a great conversation with them, and there was a no resistance, I'll take it moment. And they looked at me and they said, "You were fabulous." And that just hit me, where it was like, this was just a lot of fun. I ended up having a conversation with people, and I was able to help them. And then it was months later when they came back and they looked great. They were so thankful. And that just, okay, I got to dive in. So then that's when at 20 I said, I'm going to open up my own store. I was asked to buy into the store that I was currently dealing in. And long story short, there were too many ladles in the soup. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it my own, which was crazy when I think of it. And then, of course, and I'm still learning today. That's the other thing. In my 30s, I made the mistake thinking that I knew it all. And then I lost it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it took me to bounce back in my early 40s to now, and now I'm constantly learning because sales has changed. Yeah. Sales has definitely changed. It used to be spec, tell. Telling's not selling. Now it's people are, because of the internet, we're way more skeptical, and we should be. And AI is creating a lot more skepticism. And to me now, and you're an example of this, you deal in what I call HI, is human interaction.
Yeah.
And I think people are craving, they're desperate for human interaction. And this is where those of us that invest in this are going to make a big difference in people's lives.
Oh, Joe, I could not agree with you more. I really couldn't. And I said this to some clients recently. I think that the nurturing process nowadays, I mean, realistically, I've only been in the industry for 8 years, but even in 8 years, I've seen a lot change.
Of course.
A lot change.
Yeah.
And, I think that we're living in a trust recession.
Yes.
I think it's far harder to build trust nowadays. And I think that, like you said there, and funnily enough, we actually got this on YouTube earlier, I was sat in the back of the Uber and I was kind of, messaging someone that I'd been speaking to back and forth for 2 months. And I didn't notice this because it wasn't across his social media page, but because we'd spent that time to kind of build some rapport, send back, voice messages and stuff like that, I didn't realize that he actually had on a completely separate Instagram that isn't linked in his bio, a community of coaches that he essentially will bring them through like a PT qualification. And he says, I like what you do. I like what you stand for. Our kind of ethos is that we want to raise the bar of the coaching industry and create better coaches that run better coaching businesses.
Nice.
And that's our big thing, because we knew that coaches could do more and do better, and they just needed to believe in themselves and back themselves,
Believe in themselves.
Yeah,
so
that's
true.
It. Massively. And he turned around to me yesterday and said, George, I can send 20 clients your way. Let's jump on a call. I thought, wow, like I've never in a million years, that's never happened to me before.
Right.
It was absolutely incredible. And it's funny because I think that for so long, and I really want to dive into actually what happened in your 30s. I think that's really intriguing. But for so long, this year in particular, it's been, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's been a pretty tough year, particularly a tough summer. Went through a lot of stuff in my personal life. And there were certainly moments where I thought, I love this, but is this right for me? Should I take another course? Should I move elsewhere? Am I good enough to do this? Because, again, complete transparency, I feel I have so much respect for the industry. I almost felt like I didn't want to let the industry down. Wow. I didn't want to let coaches down. I didn't want to let the space down. And I think that's what kind of drives me to get up in the morning, is because I want to see the industry thrive. And, like we were saying kind of off camera, if I can connect with other mentors, whether it be Charlie, whether it be Greg, like whoever it may be, I love networking with other people, because I can see that there are so many people out there that want to see others win.
Yep.
And I massively connect to that.
Giving is the key, right?
Yeah.
It's meeting people like yourself and how can I give? How can I share? What can I do to help you? Because when I know that you're succeeding, without the intention of what's in it for me, that's the challenge, right? We're all listening to this radio station WIIFM, right? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
If we can just let go of that and go, how can I help? And that's it. Because I believe my higher power will send everything that I can handle, including those feelings that you just said. You were going through this moment of doubt and these changes that are happening within your personal life. That's happening for you. It's not happening to you.
That's powerful. That is very powerful. And it's funny that you say that, because there was probably a moment for me kind of middle of the year where I remember kind of almost being out on a walk, and I kind of sat down. I mean, it was summer in England, but summer in England's not too great.
It's still raining.
Still raining. Yeah. And I just kind of stared up, and I mean, I'm not a massively religious person, but I have turned to God in the past. I have prayed, and I have kind of, looked at that. And I just thought it was almost like this weird epiphany, this weird moment. And I said to myself, I know what's happening. I keep praying for strength, and I keep praying for courage. And actually what's happening is I'm given the opportunity to do those two things. Right. To be courageous and to be strong,
Correct.
And that, I think, for me was like the defining moment where I was able to start to kind of pull through and move forwards. And, the idea of, if you'd have said to me when I started in the industry that I'd be sat across from a table with people that inspire me, interviewing them and talking to them about these different things, I would have laughed it off. Massive introvert, hugely socially anxious, not a very confident young man at all. And it was actually Craig that within his school platform called me out for having imposter syndrome within our DM conversation. I actually said to him, I respect you too much to waste time on this call that we're about to have because I'm not sure if I'm ready to be coached by you.
Wow.
And he turned around to me and said, I appreciate the honesty there, but when you inquired, I heard a confident young man, and now I'm hearing this kind of self-doubt saying, you know, let's just jump on the call, let's have a conversation, see how it goes. Of course, it was an incredible call. Of course, I signed up, and of course, now it's the best thing that I ever did.
Good for you.
But it's really interesting that there are so many kind of inflection points within somebody's journey with working with yourself or with somebody else that they feel they're almost not worthy of that success.
Right.
I mean, is that something that you've ever experienced in your life
100%.
where you see a lot? Yeah.
100%. Mindset, there's 3 sets that I like to tell people that we need to work on. And you know, when I, especially speaking with fitness people, I say, well, what's the most important set? And they go, it's the 3rd set. It's the last set. And I'm like, guys, it's mindset. Skill set is still important because when we work our skills, then we develop confidence, which influences our mindset. And then we need to also develop our heart set. And there you are, wherever it was on this bench, and you're taking the time to disconnect and just listen to yourself. When I wasn't listening to my own heart and be disconnected to God or source or whatever you want to call it, we're here because something bigger than us that I don't understand created all of this. And if we work on ourselves and include it's mindset, it's the am I listening to the dialogue, or can I take control and be the dialogue?
Yeah.
And so when I listen to you and you have a level of confidence and you have a level of conviction and you're on mission, and that's what attracts people to you, George, which is fabulous. And it's okay to have those moments of doubt because that's where you're surrounding yourself with people like Craig Ballantyne who, okay, you're having this moment, we got this, I got you. And then he's going to lift you back up because Craig's done the same thing for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Incredible. How long have you been in Craig's life, if you don't mind me asking?
5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yeah. My wife and I went to the Empire Business Summit to go see Craig and Bedros and it was a very close friend of mine, Victor Proudian, who said, I'm going to get you a ticket. All you got to do is come to San Diego. And Victor's from Toronto. He happens to be very close friends with Bedros. I said, great. Again, long-term friend of mine. I fly down to San Diego and set up some work post the event. Okay. I meet Craig, and you know how Craig can be very stoic, and there's an approach that he has that I find different, that I didn't have anybody like that in my life. Yeah. And it was exactly what I needed. I needed a kick in the ass. Yeah. And that's exactly what, and Craig's there to pick me up whenever I'm down, and I'm very honest with him because this journey of as an entrepreneur, it's easy for people to see my Instagram or YouTube and it's all sunshine and rainbows. I will tell you, it's a crazy ride. I enjoy it. There's highs and there's lows. Even this past year, I had moments where we experienced attrition, an economic shift happened, and all of a sudden I'm feeling panic. And there were moments in my business where it's like, okay, guess what? My team's getting paid and I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, for a few months, and I'm going into my line of credit. And I had to have that heart set, and even a level of soul set, as Robin Sharma would say, having faith, knowing that I'm going to make it through this. Yeah. And as long as I stay with the plan and persist, I'll get through the other side. And clearly, George, you've done the same thing, which is awesome.
That. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I really, really do. And it's very nice actually to hear, obviously, from your side, having been in the game for such a long period of time and kind of had those large inflection points where you start to kind of get in your head and doubt yourself. And it's almost, I feel like when you step into a place of being an entrepreneur, immediately you put this burden on, and this burden that you put on are the gifts that you can give to people in your life and in your world and your clients and your family and all these incredible things. But there are some days where, you know, maybe you feel like you're not achieving the things you set out to do, or maybe you feel like an imposter, or your confidence takes a knock, or whatever it may be, and then suddenly this bag gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and you feel like, how can I continue? So what I'd love to dive into, if you're comfortable with it, is You mentioned, I think it was your early 30s.
Yeah.
You had that point, that moment, that kind of shift off. What happened?
Great memory, because I was wondering, I wonder if he's going to bring that back. He brought it back. Okay. There was a time in my life, and I catch myself going there on occasion, and I've got people around me to remind me that money is not the be all end all.
Yeah.
Money is a byproduct of my North Star. And there's measurements that I can make for my North Star of, I want to be able to get more testimonials. I want to be able to get more referrals, more reviews. Those are the metrics that I can measure. Back in my 30s, it was all about making money. And I was married to a different person at the time, and it was, I'm going to be the provider and have this millionaire lifestyle.
Yeah.
What ended up happening was I was self-professed workaholic, spent time away, ignored what was happening.
Sure.
And so what ended up happening was my wife, and at the time my best friend, ended up having an affair. Wow. I was traveling. Didn't spend enough, and even when I was home, I wasn't home. It was always, where's my head at? And too much alcohol being involved. So anyways, my best friend and my wife at the time end up having an affair. She gets pregnant with his child. Everything falls apart. I had my dream home. I didn't, and it just got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm losing everything here. I'm not going to lose my girls. I have two daughters who they became the why.
Yeah.
So there was nothing I could do to be able to save the marriage. I was ready to do everything. I was ready to, okay, I'll raise the kid. I mean, I do not want to lose the marriage. She was already gone. She wasn't even angry anymore. She was indifferent. So there's literally no emotion involved in this. It was game over.
Yeah.
So then I had to do work on me. And at the time, in my 30s, I had already sold my business. So I was a representative for a company, and I was a traveling sales rep. And I was making great money being a sales coach back then. And my manager at the time said, you've got to work on you, and you've got to get back out in the field. And I didn't want to lose out on my children, so I worked at co-parenting and gaining 50% custody of my daughters, which was challenging for a young man who was just about the money. Suddenly, the ego hit, George, was so massive. I went from this 6-bedroom home on the river in my hometown to a dilapidated house. I'm not kidding. Everything was crooked. If you dropped a marble in the kitchen, it would roll all the way into the living room. It was horrible.
Yeah.
The heating bill was horrible, all of it. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I was suicidal at one point. I dropped so much weight. I wasn't eating. And it was my girls that I said, I need to be the best father. To this day, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know I'm a better man. I'm more disciplined. Thanks to Craig as well. I mean, he's the godfather of discipline. Even back in my 30s, I shifted so many things. I went into an Al-Anon program, not AA, Al-Anon, because there were people around me that were drinking so much that their behavior around alcohol was affecting me. It was driving me bananas. Yeah. And that 12-step work helped me reach a level of my heart and soul and connect with my higher power, and I still go back to it, where if I work on me, everything around me is going to be okay.
Yeah.
So self-care is not selfish. So I was this person who was giving out and giving out and giving out until I just gave out.
Yeah. And
I thought what I was doing in terms of giving out, making money, was what my wife and my friend and the environment that I had put myself in, what they wanted. And that's not what they wanted. They wanted Joe.
Yeah.
They just wanted me, and my daughters wanted Papa. And yeah, it was the hardest thing I'd ever gone through. And I made my way through it. So now when I go through these times of ups and downs of the entrepreneurial roller coaster, and I can think back of that moment and go, yeah, okay, this is easy. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
Wow. I'll be honest. That actually hurt my chest hearing that. Genuinely, I thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure. It's
it's powerful, and I just, like, you know, from one man to another, I can relate to a lot of what you said there. A lot of what you said, particularly this year. You know, and I think that, like you say there, this is something that I've certainly kind of connected with from what you mentioned, is that I'd almost put a role on myself of being like, okay, well, you're a man, you're running a successful business, you have to provide. And that has to come above everything else until it can't. Because you're no longer providing for you. You know, Joe's no longer providing for Joe, George is no longer providing for George, and that's where I had to get to. So you mentioned there was a 12-step process that you had to go through in order to kind of overcome that. What did that look like?
So the first step is just coming to a place where understanding that I'm not in control. I'm not in control of people, places, or things, and that's it. Like it's chaos. Then the next step is giving it up to my higher power, saying, okay, there's something bigger than me. And again, this is not a religious statement. This is just simply, and then willingly giving that up. Then getting to a place of connecting with other human beings. I got lucky enough to be able to meet a group of men that were just able to listen. Just listen and allow me to, on occasion, vomit and cry and be in a safe environment to allow myself, and then be able to share with a mentor. In this context, it's a sponsor, and this particular older gentleman, and again, it's anonymous, so we'll just call him Bill V. I won't mention his last name. Bill was a retired Anglican priest. I never went to an Anglican church. I grew up as a French Canadian. We went to a Catholic church, completely different world, and it had nothing to do with the church. And I shared with him ugly things about my life, like the ugly stuff, and I shared it with him, and I shared it with my higher power at that point, and then it was a purging, and then I had to go and make a list of people that I felt that I had harmed, and I had to make amends with them. And once this process goes through it, then it's the regular practice of meditation, of what my friend Gavin McHale, who you know with Craig's group, I recently had a sauna with him, and he just bought this cool sauna at his place, and he invited me over, and he said, he calls it a download from God. He just says, okay, give me the download. And it's really cool because it's not about me, it's about something bigger. So tell me what I need to do, and just listen for that. And then it's the consistency of, am I off? Did I say something wrong? I mean, I'm not perfect. My wife is sitting right over there. She'll tell you I'll sometimes make a statement, or I'll say something that I'm quick to, I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. And I have to apologize often. I mean, and then it's sharing. The last step is telling other people about what this process is. And coaching is very similar to the same thing. I mean, it's important for us to be able to share what the process is without selling or pushing people into it. It's just, this is information for you. And what you choose to do with it, I like to tell people, take my information like spare ribs. You keep the meat and throw away the bone. It's up to you.
Yeah. I love that. That's incredible, man. That's so incredible. I could honestly listen to you talk about kind of your past and that story for days.
We could discuss a lot of things, because I'm curious about, you said you just recently went through something this year, and I have to ask, is there's obviously something personal that you've gone through.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, of course. So, for me, over the last kind of couple of years, I'd met someone, starting a relationship with this person, and we were both coaches, both kind of very similar endeavor, and I'd built Coach's Corner right at the start of this relationship. So we shifted from a physique coaching business to a business one.
Got it.
And me and my ex-partner kind of began to build this vision together, and we kind of decided, like, right, we're going to build the business, we're going to move to Dubai, we're going to start this new life and everything else. And, ultimately, I won't kind of share too much personal information about her, just out of respect of, of that. But we both had some very, very challenging childhood. And what this relationship made me realize is that, very similar to what you said, and funnily enough, I've used this word quite a lot within kind of therapy sessions, is that purging. We both needed to go for almost like a purging of that past and of that kind of trauma and of that hurt in order to kind of come out the other side of things. And ultimately, all that happened is that kind of, throughout this year, there'd been so much conflict to one another to a point whereby, we've kind of, gone our separate ways of things. And I think at first, definitely a lot of denial, definitely a lot of kind of hatred towards myself, but a lot of toxic shame. So what I mean by toxic shame is, again, I'm not perfect. We've made mistakes, and there's been a lot of things that I regret. Particularly just the way that I was around the sense of my whole life was built around work. Like, I adore what I do. I wake up in the morning and I want to work. I absolutely love it to pieces. It's my whole life. But the mistake I made was work was God. I worshipped it.
Yeah.
And to the point whereby nothing, I thought things mattered, but now I look at it, I'm like, nothing else mattered other than as long as work was okay, then that was me, that was my personality. I needed to realize that George and business coaching and business mentoring were two complete separate things. And I'd lost myself. And I think through kind of going through this this kind of purging process, it made me remember a lot of stuff that happened in a previous life. And it also, how long have we got? Okay, you know what? I've never said this in a podcast, but I'm going to say it today. I feel like it's the right time to say it.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I experienced a lot of kind of abuse from my dad. My mum did. She brought us up, like single mum brought us up by herself. And I think because of the abuse that I saw and experienced and witnessed, the hiding in the cupboard, the hiding underneath the bed, the running away from home multiple times, kind of led me through quite like a deep and destructive pathway later on in life. And I put on this invisibility cloak of, I'm going to be a role model now. I'm going to be the man. But that worked until it didn't. That worked to the point where I would want to lead other people and inspire other people and coach other people and help other people. But then what would happen is that I would, if I did something that wasn't ethical, or if I argued with someone and had confrontation, I would almost back it up by saying, well, I'm the role model. I have to be that person. And what I realized was happening is that a lot of the things I was doing, a lot of things I was saying, and a lot of my actions were out of a place of insecurity. And you mentioned Bedros earlier. I listened to his podcast a lot because I really connect with his story. And this is, I think, why I love helping people so much, because I understand what it feels like to feel completely afraid and vulnerable. And this is why within sales, when you talk about empathy, I'm a very empathetic salesperson, and that's how I am. I've been told off for that in the past because they say you're too empathetic, you're trying to be their friend.
There's no such thing. I think you're doing it the right way, and you're being authentic by saying that.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't change.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that. That's nice to hear, actually. Yeah, I'd worked with someone with sales, and they said you're too empathetic. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
So you're mentioning Bedros, and
a
lot of things that connected. I apologize to interrupt. When I hear that, it resonates for me because I've heard that as well. We can be successful by being real. That level of patience that you have it's so important. It's not a transaction.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Joe, a lot. I do, a lot, a hell of a lot. I think a big rationale behind why I do what I do and why I coach and kind of why I mentor and why I want to change the world is because I've seen how much darkness there can be within people, and I think I can often see through that and help people to recognize that you can turn this around.